Hey, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending on where you are listening to us from, or when you will hear the rebroadcast or listen to this later, as I should say. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Willie Cartwright with From Save to Sane, our bi-weekly I should say, yeah, bi-weekly, every other week podcast that we do. And it is the reason that we do it, or the purpose of it, is to, I guess there's a number of reasons, but we do it. I am a former Christian, now consider myself a non believer who is in this space, trying to create even more space for individuals who are on a deconstruction journey, a deconstruction journey, deconstructing from organized religion, um, deconstructing from their belief systems. Who people who may be all the way over to the left or right, depending on how you look at it, consider themselves to be atheists or agnostic, and those individuals who just have questions about their faith and are either beginning the journey or at least are beginning to ask those questions that many of us who are part of this journey have been asking. I personally don't think that we ever complete the journey, because even if we arrive at a position that we believe, whether that position becomes agnostic or atheist, or we remain a believer in some form of religion, organized religion, or even if we become spiritual, um, I think there is still a progression and evolution that takes place even within that space that we find ourselves in. At least for me, because I am a continuing learner. I love learning. And so I always want to learn more, even about the position that I may declare, given the situation. But yes, so we are here. Christine, glad to have you. Greetings from Texas. Awesome. As you guys can see, if you're watching me live, you can see that I have a shade of window open and there's some sun coming through. Since we moved the time fall back, uh, I think it may get darker a little bit sooner. I have some lighting. I didn't have time to set up my other lighting because I rushed in from what I was doing prior to this, and so next time I have my other lighting set up, so we won't have this sun glare. Even though it's not bothering me, so hopefully it's not bothering you. So again, we're glad to have you guys here today, and I consider this to be a special show for me. And we're going to talk about that in just a second, the title and what the show is about. But I need to begin as I've always begun, and I always begin these podcasts by saying thank you to a couple of people. And I see that the first one, Taisha, set her notifications up. Oh, she is here. Greetings, bro. Greetings, sister. My sister Taisha is here. We are on fire today. This is awesome. Uh, Glad to have you here. She said she's here from the special announcement. Well, awesome. And the announcement, and let me the announcement is more um about helping me get through some stuff. It may not necessarily be a huge announcement for you all, but for me personally on this journey, it is a huge step that I will take, and I will explain it to you later as we go through the process. But as I started, let me say thank you, as I always do, to Taisha, and I tell you this all the time. I tell the listeners this all the time. Taisha is one of the people who are responsible for this space, for me being here, for me doing what I'm doing. And so I'm always appreciative to her, and I will always be. Taisha, I hope that you are doing well. I hope that the family is doing well. I haven't seen a lot of your stuff on social media lately, so maybe I'm missing it or my algorithms are wrong or something, but I need to see more Taisha. Um, so, yeah. And then, secondly, like I said, thank you to my wonderful wife who's always supportive of me. uh she's like me, she's still going through a journey as well, but she's 100% supportive of what I do. Our journeys are similar in many ways, and there are some divergence of our journeys. And so you will hear about some of that today as well. But yeah, so we are happy, and I'm thankful to the both of them. Taisha says we're on this journey with you. Send our love to the missus. Absolutely. She asked about you guys. Taisha, you guys got to get out here to Vegas, man. It's a lot more than just gambling, because we don't gamble, we don't drink, but it's a lot more to do. So One of these days when you and the mister want to come out here, come on out. We'll show you guys a really good time. So yeah, so let me get to it. Well, let me do this because Taisha is here, so I have to do this, or she will spank me. Um, she will get me for not promoting my book. This is my book. I want you guys to pick it up. Christine, again, thank you for getting this a couple of weeks ago. Christina, she bought it. We sent her a copy, a signed copy. Hopefully, she started reading it, and she will give me some feedback shortly at some point. But from Saved to Sane, my journey away from Christianity and why Christianity has been detrimental to the African American community. Willie O. Cartwright. You can get this on Amazon, or you can email me at wocartwright@yahoo.com, and I'll put it in the chat when I get an opportunity to. And we'll send you a signed copy. So yeah, so we are good. So today, what I wanted to do, because this is roughly about I don't think it's 4 years yet, but certainly 3 years since we started this podcast. It may be more, but for some reason I'm saying 3 years. And so anyway, I think it's been a while. And what I like to do from time to time, at least once a year or so, is sort of rehash or talk about the journey, why I took the journey, why I'm here, why we're doing this, and what got me here. And in today's case, any new or recent developments in this journey. And so I think it's important. The reason why this came about is because I was in the gym a few days ago, and I saw a young lady who was giving sort of her update on her journey. She talked about her journey. Uh, and I said to myself, maybe it's time for me to do this again because we have some new listeners. We certainly have some new listeners and some new subscribers since the last time I did this. But I think it's extremely important that you know that the person that's doing this podcast, that you understand his journey, what he's gone through, and why he's here, and then what's next, or what's the most recent developments. And so I don't know how long, if this is going to take the whole hour, but I'm certainly open to answering any questions that you may put in the chats, or even talk about any of your experiences. They may be similar, it may be different. Yeah, thank you, Thais. Yeah, we have 500 subscribers, and and I said this a couple of weeks ago, they are all organic. They are all individual subscribers. There's no trickery to it. No, I haven't paid anybody. About a year ago, I had a guy come to me who follows me. This is when I was still living in Atlanta, so it must have been over a year ago, probably maybe 2 years ago. He said, "Listen, I can get you 1,000, 10,000 subscribers. Blah blah blah. Here's what we need to do." Da 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 da. And it was really about, it wasn't organic subscribers. And so I want this page to always be organic. I want everyone to be here. I want them to be real persons, real people. I'm sorry, real people who are interested in the things that we talk about here, and want to contribute. Whether they're pro or con, doesn't matter, as long as this is a topic that is interesting to them, and they are real people. And so, yeah, thank you so much. And so that's how we're growing. So yeah. So again, that's why I wanted to do this, because we do have a lot more subscribers since the last time I talked about my journey, how we got here, and so I want to do that. I'm going to try not to. It's not going to be. Many of you have heard the story, so I'll try to switch it up a little bit, spice it up a little bit, and maybe add some stuff that I left off before. And so yeah, and so we're here now. This journey started. I would say it started in earnest, but in 2015, when my wife and I left the church, left organized religion, left Christianity. But when I look back, glad to have you. Was that Saren Lato 1109? Thank you so much for being here. Peace to you as well. And so, but when I look at 2015, I go back to when I was in college. Prior to that, like many of you, I'm born and raised in the South, like some of you, but I'm born and raised in the South, Alabama. At times, you can hear the accent. um, but yeah, and so like many of us in the South in the 70s, church was everything. It was church and school. My mother didn't have any tolerance for us missing either. So it was always church and it was always school. Those were the two most important things to us. Thank you for joining, Sharon. Glad to have you here. South Carolina, yes, yes. Okay, so you understand. So we were in church all the time. Uh, Sunday all day. I never got a chance to watch football. I'm a huge football fan, so I always joke about that. But we were in church all day Sundays, Wednesdays, all the other stuff. But I think the thing that was the most tiring for me, and some of you can relate to this, is during the summer and revival. So not only did we go to our own revival, my mother dragged us to our revival that took was a week during the summer. She would take us to as many revivals that she could find during the summer. So here I am, a young child, a teenager, adolescent, whatever, the many years until I was 17 or whatever, 18, and went to college. We were dragged to summer revival. So I spent my summers in the humidity and the heat going to revivals. Some of these revivals were what they would call the outdoor tent revivals. I don't know how many of you are familiar with those, where you sweltering in the humidity in the deep south in June, July, August, and you're under one of these tents, and one of these preachers coming out there talking forever and forever. The thing about revivals, if you guys remember, if you still attend, is that they went on forever and forever. They may have started at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening when people got off work, but they would go on through the night because people never got tired. And I always say it was because it was old people and they had nothing else to do during the summer but be at church. And so we would do that, and then we would go to revivals that would do the anointing, where they would put the oil on your forehead. So my sister and I, we got the oil on our forehead. We're sitting there sweating. We're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, and the heat, want to go home, all this. And so those are vivid memories that I had. But along the way, I had questions in my mind because I wouldn't dare ask these questions to adults, my mother, anybody else in the church. But stuff there were some questions that I had, but it wasn't enough to make me say, "Oh, maybe there's something off with this thing, religion thing." No, not at all. Let me catch up on some of the comments. Everyone is saying welcome to each other. Certainly appreciate that. Sharon said we had to do it every summer along with Vacation Bible School was another one. Absolutely. Vacation BTU, Vacation Bible School. We did all of that. And so Christine said she remembered the Texas. I bet those were brutal as well in the summer in Texas. So we went and did that. And so it was so when I left, when I finally got free, and I said my freedom, and I mean it from the standpoint of church and growing up, but also from my mother's house. My mother was extremely strict. And so at times it felt like a prison. And so when I left, I was like, okay, I went to college and I was churched out, y'all. I mean, I was done. I got to college and my roommate, I had known him in high school. We were in a club together, hung out together in high school. We were roommates in college, and his parents were also very religious. I think his father was a deacon. And then, and of course, pretty much everybody, all of us, but here we are, 18, 19-year-olds on the hallway in the dormitory, and Sunday hits. And we're like, man, I ain't going to church. After a while, we just kind of like stopped going to church, and we would just hang out and watch football, get up when we felt like getting up, go to the cafeteria, eat breakfast or whatever, because we lived on campus. But anyway, but it wasn't until this point that up until this point, everyone I knew was Christian, and in particular, the denomination was pretty much Baptist. I knew Baptists, a few Methodists, some Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventists. I knew one Catholic guy, but that was it. And so, but when I got to college, my beloved HBCU, Alabama A&M University, there were a lot of guys from up north. And so I got an opportunity for the first time to speak with people or talk to people who religion wasn't necessarily Christian or in the traditional sense of Christianity that I knew. I met Muslims for the first time, Nation of Islam, 5%ers, Hebrew Israelites, and just pretty much everything. And so I sort of started with this fascination about religion, and I learned about these things. And I remember, and I've told this story before, I remember thinking, okay, Christianity is not for me. Maybe Islam is for me. I should become a Muslim. And I thought about converting. I go home, tell my mom, thinking about converting. She had a picture of a white Jesus. We got into one of our rare disagreements, because I would never disagree with her, because I was so in reverence of her and afraid of her, and I revered her so much. But after my first year of college, I was like, I became really militant. Why we got this picture of white Jesus? And she completely lost her mind and pulled a Florence Evans, one of those things like, this is Jesus, da 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 da. And I said to her, well, I think I'm thinking about converting to Islam. She sort of giggled and laughed and said, well, Muslims don't eat pork. You can't eat ham. At the time, ham was my favorite food. And, up until she passed away, we would just kind of joke about that. But I was like, okay, well, maybe that's not the direction I want to go in at the time. But the moral of the story is that it started me thinking about something other than Christianity and other than being Baptist. You go through, fast forward, I get out of college. Again, I'm sort of churched out and I'm sort of tired of going to church so much. And so I stopped going. But every time I stopped going there, I felt guilty because of the indoctrination. I had been indoctrinated so much about going to church and being a part of church until when I didn't go, I felt guilty. So I always found my way back to the church because I felt so guilty about not going. Just a couple of comments here. Saran Lato says, yes, I knew about those at church all day and night, shaking my head. Taisha says there's an episode of The Outer Limits with Gary Busey about a revival. If anyone needs the reason not to go to a revival, they should watch that and the documentary Jonestown. Oh yeah, yep. Just got an idea. Let's team up for a series on religious cults. Yeah, let's do that. I got some information when I was in school about that. We'll do that, Taisha. What is this? Revive Sound, glad to have you. I don't know if this is your first time, but certainly appreciate you being here. He said, love from the UK. I aren't a religious, but you seem cool. I appreciate that. Jay Jammin said, greetings to all. Yeah, thank you. Glad to have you from the UK. I love London, and I know that's just part of the UK, but I'm a fan of London. But anyway, so yeah, so you feel guilty. So I found my way back to church, so forth and so on. Um, uh, my first wife, I got married in like 1996, I think. My first wife, she was actually Church of Christ, and so I had already been baptized twice, and so Church of Christ. Her father was like, "Yo, before y'all can get married, you got to get baptized again because Church of Christ is different from Baptist and da da da. That's not the way." And I remember one day asking him, "What's the difference between Baptist and Church of Christ?" And the only thing he could tell me was that they didn't play music in the church and Church of Christ. And I said, "You really making that big of a difference because y'all don't play music." So I had to get baptized again. So it was like the second or third time me getting baptized. That marriage didn't last. That marriage lasted about 3 years, and I always joked and said that marriage lasted um, uh, uh, um, 2 years, 11 months, too long. So it should have been over the first week. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so I got baptized again. After I got divorced, 5 years of just sort of hanging out, doing whatever. Still, debating about this whole church thing. Not debating as to whether or not I shouldn't be a Christian, but whether or not I was just churched out. I was tired of going to church. And then I met my wife. And she was Christian. She was as devout as I was, and we wasn't like devout, but we were devout enough. And so we were into the church big time. We were going to a couple of mega churches, paying a lot of money in tithes. That's a whole nother story that I try not to talk about. But yeah, at these mega churches, paying tithes. Well-known mega churches in and around Atlanta. We either were members of those or visited them. And the history of her religious history is this. She was born into the Muslim faith. Her name is Muslim. She has a Muslim name. Her mother and father were Muslim at the time. Um, she ended up converting to Christianity when she was like 19 and ended up successfully getting her mother to convert from Islam to Christianity. And so, but she had been a Christian, from the time I met at that point. She had been a Christian for a while. And I tease her, she was very conservative Christian. She almost looked like, she was in her 20s, but she dressed and act like at the time, like she was in her 60s. And I used to give her a hard time about that. But yeah, it was a very conservative form of Christian, where she grew up in. But anyway, so Taisha says, welcome from across the pond. Absolutely, certainly. Thank you for being here. Sharon said, I feel religion has made us stagnant because we are conditioned to pray on everything. Most people who say that they are Christians don't practice what the Bible say anyway. They also follow blindly. Absolutely, I agree. What's goody? Save the same. Who is this? Steve the theorist. Appreciate, glad to have you here. Certainly, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm great. He's speaking to everybody else. Sharon said hello. The teacher says greetings. So yeah, so you go. So my wife and I, so now we are in church. We're doing the church thing. We're meeting the people. We're going to these Sunday school classes. And then we were at one really large mega church one day, and we had just joined this church, right? And so they make you go through the new membership class. Even though I had been a Christian at that point all my life, right? We still had to go through this new member class. And so we're sitting there, and we were sort of like, experienced Christians, but we were still in the new members class. And so there were a lot of new Christians, like people who were new to Christianity, who had never been quote unquote saved, never been part of the church. And this one particular Sunday, this young lady, she was there first time, had never been exposed to Christianity. She came in, she was eager. She was like, "Yeah, I want to be saved and I want to learn." She had been, evidently she had been here, joined the church. She was part of this class, right? Exactly, Taisha, the new indoctrination class. So anyway, she asked the teacher a question. She said, "Can you please explain to me the Trinity?" And so my wife and I sitting there because we had asked people before, and up to that point, we knew no one who could successfully make the Trinity make sense, right? And so this teacher started, hemming and hawing and making up stuff and just couldn't. And so the new student, the new Christian, got frustrated. Some of the other people in the class got frustrated, and so did we. And we said to her and to the people in the class, this is foundational to your faith. If you as an instructor, if you as a lifelong Christian cannot successfully explain the Trinity to new people, to non-Christians, that's a problem. And so I remember after that, we talked to a friend of ours who had been to seminary school, and asked her if she could explain the Trinity to us. And she couldn't, but she referred us to someone else. And so it was weird in that sense. And so I've never really been able to understand the Trinity. Or at least I understand it, but it doesn't make sense. Put it like that. And so that may have been one of the catalysts to get us started. But anyway, fast forward, we in the church, we do the whole tithes thing. And then after a while, this was the money was not, we decided that the money would be better served doing something else. And so we started cutting back on our tithes. And prior to that, we was at this huge church. Prior to that, literally, we were getting phone calls every month from somebody in the church asking us how we were doing. And my wife was like, "Why are they calling us?" I said, "Well, because we're actually one of the better tithers. We're giving a lot of money." And and that, that's not, pompous or arrogant. And the reason why I know that is because when we stopped, the phone call stopped. When we dialed back our giving, our tithes, the phone calls literally stopped. I mean, like point blank stopped. We got no more phone calls. And so that was evidence that was the deal. And so Tahisha says Trinity equals unholy threesome. Absolutely. So anyway, couple of years passed, and wife and I, we are avid. We love being outdoors. We love hiking. And so those of you who are familiar with the Atlanta area, there's Stone Mountain. And Stone Mountain is this park with this mountain called Stone Mountain. Now that I've been out west, it's really a hill because you see the real mountains out here. But anyway, and there's some history to Stone Mountain, the Klan, the Ku Klux Klan, and all that kind of stuff. Those of you who know about it know. If you know, you know, as they say. But anyway, so you can walk up the mountain, which is about a mile up, and you can walk down the mountain, or you walk around the mountain, which is about 5 miles. This particular day, we decided to walk around the mountain, the mountain. So my wife and I were walking around the mountain, and we're just talking, we're just talking, and literally at the same time, we both kind of just stopped and said, this religious thing, this religion thing, this Christianity thing is just not working for us. I mean, we really both had this conversation, and so to each other almost at the same time. And so I think both of us had been thinking about this for some time, but didn't know how to express this to the other, or we were concerned that the other would get upset about it because it was part of who we were. Um, Stephen the theorist said, "I'm sorry, I meant thank you for the invite." Yeah, whoever invited you, I appreciate it. But anyway, and so at that point, we decided that we would both embark on our own personal and separate religious journeys. My wife wanted to explore Eastern philosophies and Eastern religions a lot more, Buddhism, Hinduism, um, Taoism, some of those things. And so she went off on that path. I didn't want to be connected to any kind of organized religion whatsoever at that point, but I was very interested in religion itself from a secular standpoint, how religion affects us, how religion affects society, how we create policies based on religion, the effects that religion has on especially the African American community. Someone mentioned it earlier, how it makes us in a sense irresponsible, non-accountable, because we're always waiting for Jesus to fix it or let Jesus fix it. And I think that is absolutely part of it. And so that's the direction that I went into. That was 2015. But about 2 years into this journey, my wife got sick. She had some mental stuff going on that, coming from where I came from, deep south, really a machoism type of upbringing, and with the religion, um, we thought that anything that showed a mental weakness either meant you were crazy or you were possessed by the devil, right? And so I had never encountered anything like this, short of a cousin who was born, and needed help for the rest of her life. I mean, literally had to just sit in a room in the dark for the rest of her life. They had to feed her and all this other stuff, and so we just, we didn't know how to make her that. But the reason of that was the reason why that was because my aunt had a stroke while she was pregnant, and so that was the developmental issues. But as a young person, you really don't know that. All you know is that you got a cousin in the back who's in the room. They got her locked in the room in the dark, and she's making sounds, and they go in and feed her and change her. And even today, she would be, in her 40s or whatever. I don't even know where she is, if she's even still alive or whatever, because her mother died many years ago, and I don't know what they did with her. But anyway, that was my only experience with, mental issues. And so when my wife started having some issues, we were told by people who loved us, and they did love us, and they do love us. These were people who were close to us. However, their rationale for this was, well, she's going through this because you guys left the covering of Jesus Christ. You guys left the church, you guys left the religion, and this is what's happening to you, right? And I don't know if this was, God is punishing you or whatever. But anyway, this was told to us by people who love us. Um, and so it had the opposite effect that I think that they thought that it would have on me. Especially, I had a mentor who I loved dearly and still love to this day, who told me this is happening to your wife because God wants you to speak for him, and you're running away and blah blah blah. I had probably never been that angry at anyone in a very long time because he told me that. So we try to go back to the church. We're going to all these things. The churches we're going to, people are, they're making these prayer circles for my wife. They're doing, literally doing exorcisms on her. I mean, you name it. We go to 3 or 4 different churches. My wife is going through this every week for 6 months, 9 months, even a year or so, um, and nothing. It's still, it's still the same issues. And finally, we said, well, we try to join the church again and go back, but once the toothpaste is out of the tube, it is hard to go back. So it is difficult to sit there in a sermon and listen to a preacher talk about this stuff, and that it's BS. You know that it's bullshit, right? And so eventually we said, listen, let's get you some professional, non-religious help. Let's find a professional, a person that went to school for this, who can help you with this. And sure enough, found a person, fantastic lady, went between therapy and medication. And eventually, wife got better, 100%. Hadn't had an issue since then, and that was 2017, 2018, or whatever, thereabout. But the purpose of telling us that, and trust me, my wife and I, we've talked about this, and she know that I, talk about this publicly. And we don't go into great details, but just detail enough because we do think that this also helps other people. And so yeah, so no issue after that, no problem. So we end up. So again, we left the church because we really hadn't gone back, but we just couldn't continue to stay. 2020, and I said so around 20 before 2020, I was active on social media, and I was going through the stages. Those of you who deconverted, you understand the stages. For me, it was anger at first, believing that these people that I grew up with, that I trusted, had lied to me, the adults, whether or not they knew the truth about the Bible, religion, Christianity, God, whatever. So it was, there was anger, and then and the next stage was, well, let me tell you everything I know because you're wrong, so forth and so on. And then that sort of morphed into, well, let's just have these debates and so forth and so on. And eventually you get to the point where, this is your journey. You understand what's going on. You put the information out there. When people want to change, or if they do change, then that's fine. If they don't, then that's fine. Understanding that most people, at least in the foreseeable future, are not going to change, especially those in my generation. And so those are the stages that you go through. But after starting on social media, I started to see that there were people who looked like me, who were sort of going through some of the things that I was going through. But it wasn't a community, or at least at the time, I didn't see a community of us. And so I said, well, what's the best way for me to get this message out so I can try to help as many people, or at least let people know that there are other people that look like us that are going through the same thing, especially being Generation X from the Deep South. And so I decided to write my book. So I started writing the book, From Saved to Sane, My Journey Away from Christianity and Why It's Been Detrimental to Our Community. And in the book, it talks about my journey, but it talks about a lot of historical stuff, facts, and obviously why I think it's been detrimental to the community. It is for those of you who might be um, uh, academicians. This was my book before I went to grad school, so it's not at an academic level from the standpoint of a graduate level book, but it is a good read. A lot of information, and there's a lot of references that you can go to as well. And so that's where that came from. Published the book, I think, in 2020. Yeah, in 2020. Great. The book actually sold more than I thought it would because it was just really to sort of get the information out there and to also give me something to talk about when I'm on stage or speaking. But it sold a lot more copies than I thought it would because there seemed to be a lot more interest in it. Couple of comments. You got to get right with God's nonsense. Absolutely. That's from Taisha. Thank you. Yep. Someone is saying what's up to Steve, Surinlada, and then Sharon says that Taisha, thanks for letting me know. For some reason, my notifications are set, but it never notified me of the lie. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the notifications, but anyway, so we did that 2020, and then I decided that I wanted to really get serious about being in this space, helping people. And fortunate enough, because we had owned a business and the business had done reasonably well, I was in a position to really do this and try to do this full time. So that's where the podcast came from. So I don't know, 2022 or whatever. Um, was it during COVID? I can't remember, but sometime that's when we started the podcast. So that was the first step that I wanted to do. But I also went back to school in 2022. I got a master's degree in religious studies. With Georgia State. Georgia State was teaching religious studies from a secular standpoint, which is exactly what I wanted. I didn't want to go to a seminary school. I did not want to go to anything like that. I wanted to get it from a secular standpoint, from professors, PhDs. And so I did that. We did really, really well. And so I wrote my dissertation. I wrote my thesis, my graduate thesis on nuns, NONES. Those are individuals who are not part of organized religions. There are everything from individuals who still believe in God, but says, I haven't been to church in 20 years. I don't plan to go back to church, all the way to the other side, which are people who are open and devout atheists or agnostics and everything in between. So I wrote my thesis about those and the impact of secularism on our society. Because what I noticed and what we're learning and what we see today is that younger people, millennials and younger, more and more of those individuals are at a minimum becoming are part of the non category. Uh, Honestly, still a lot of those individuals still believe in God or higher power or another deity. Um, I would say a vast majority, but it is still an expanding category. There are more and more people in the so-called non-category right now. The non-category is the largest quote unquote religious group in the country. But again, that group is still made up of people who maybe still believe in a higher power or even God, as we know God to be, or believe God to be. Those of you who do that. But I think but what we do know is that the agnostic and atheist portion of nuns is expanding as well. And so one of the things that I posit in my writings is that the more nuns we get, the more people we get into the nun category, the more of those individuals are going to become agnostic or atheists at some point. And so we do see that happening. And so that's where we are. And so that's how we get to where we are now. Currently, what I am doing, obviously, is this podcast. Been done with finished school in 2024. I'm thinking about maybe going back and maybe doing something in cultural anthropology, because what I want to do is something substantial. I want to leave a legacy. I want to study and talk about how I can help and we can help create public policy that is void of religious doctrine or dogma. Because it is my belief, and I get criticized from my professors from grad school oftentimes for saying this, but it is my belief that religion is inherently discriminatory, meaning that just the very foundation of religion makes it discriminatory to those individuals who are not part of the so-called in crowd. Christianity, for example, is discriminatory against gay and lesbians, those in the LGBTQ community. They are discriminatory against individuals women who want to own and control their own bodies. I'm not pro-abortion. I am pro-choice. I'm pro a woman doing what she wants to do. That's between her, the father of her child, and whatever God or whatever she believes in. Or if she don't, then it's just between those two. And there are many, many, many other issues as well that I believe and that we know for a fact are negatively impacted by religion. And so when you bring religion into the picture, it sort of screws up everything. We see that today with Christian nationalism, and we see what's going on in our politics. So it is my wish to continue to study that, and how at some point we can be like some more secular countries like Sweden, Switzerland, Denmark, some of those other countries that create public policy that is not based on a particular religion or religious doctrine or dogma, because I think that is fair, and more better for the collective community. Let's create policy that's based on what's just wrong and right for the masses, and not necessarily what's wrong and right based on what you believe or don't believe. And so that's where we are on that. Um, some of the work that I want to do and that I will do and that I am doing, it's going to be in education. It's going to be in homelessness, some social issues, social justice. All of that is there as well. Even in education, when we talk about, we want our kids, our young people, to be able to compete on a global stage. If they really believe that creation is the most plausible reason as to why we're here, then they sound unintelligent on a global stage, because most people around the world understand that evolution, Big Bang, natural selection is the most plausible explanation for our existence. I didn't say that it was perfect. I didn't say that that it was all to be all, but based on the evidence, the objective scientific evidence that we have today, it is the most plausible reasons they are the most plausible reasons for our existence today. And it is not creation, it is not the biblical story. And so from an education standpoint, I want to be one of those that have to create policies that keeps the Ten Commandments and study of the Bible out of our public schools. If you want your child to learn about religion, then send them to a religious school, send them to a Catholic school, whatever, but not to the public schools. And so that homelessness, we see now some right-wing evangelicals that are starting to say that there is something wrong with empathy. That empathy is somehow a sin. That empathy is somehow wrong. Um, and so I don't. That's weird to me as a person who's supposed to be following Christ. And so again, I want to talk about homelessness as an issue void of religion, and let's do what's best for the collective. Let's do what's best for all of us without injecting religion into it. Again, the social issues we talk about. I ask my religious friends all the time, why do you have a problem with two men or two women loving each other? Does it affect you, and how does it affect you? And it always, most of the time, comes back to religion. And so I think that's a problem. Two consenting adults should have the right to marry, just like me and my wife, being heterosexuals, have the right to marry. Same thing with adopting kids and all of that. Now, I'm not. All of you may not agree with that, and that's fine. That's just my personal opinion about all of that. Again, social justice issues. We don't need to continue to try to turn to this Jesus or this God character to solve our social justice issues. We need to be accountable and responsible, and figuratively and literally fight for our rights, and not say, well, we're going to let God fix it, we're going to let Jesus fix it. And I think we're starting to see more and more people understand that. And ironically, 40, 50 years ago, the church and clergy were out front with social justice issues. But what we see today is that many of the churches and the clergy, they're no longer out front. They're no longer as vocal about those social justice issues as they once were. And I see that some of those individuals, because they may have an issue with LGBTQ or trans, they some of them would gravitate to being more right leaning, and then forget about the social justice issues that all of us have to face, people of color, in particular African American people. And so yeah, so that's an issue for me. But so yeah, I wanted, so a couple of comments. Let's see, Cheryl said, Taisha, thanks for, okay. And then the last one was PC Chat and Bruh Willie. Papa Lance, thank you so much for being here, man. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you for that. So the big announcement, and let me, this is nothing earth shattering. Here's why this is important to me. When I started this journey, and I think Taisha talked about how she was searching for people in this space, and she ran across some of my videos. One of the things that I noticed about the community and the community for us is that, like anything else, there is still always a separation uh, along racial lines, right? The black people that I have found in this space, when I asked them the history of them being in this space, they said, "Well, we had to start our own because even white non-believers are racist or can be racist." And I'm not saying all of them, and I've met some really wonderful people who are not. But that the only thing that you may have in common with this person is the fact that you don't believe in a God or a deity, or you're questioning the belief in a God or deity. Everything else, they can still be racist, bigoted, whatever. That doesn't change that. Um, and so found these organizations. But what I saw with these black organizations and that was different from the white organizations, is that we were very careful with the verbiage and the language that we use to describe ourselves. For example, and I know sometimes it's done to be inclusive. Um, Black Non-Believers is an organization that I'm very familiar with. Shout out to them. They do fantastic work. I've spoken with the president many times. We were at a conference together. I actually interviewed her for one of my projects in grad school, so we know each other extremely, extremely well. And so Black Non-Believers and these other black groups, up until recently, because I do see some differences coming along the way, we were very careful to how we defined ourselves in this space. One reason is what I said before, because we wanted to be inclusive, and we know that this is an umbrella and that there are a lot of different people with a lot of different titles. That's number one. Number two, we understood as African Americans that there you it was important as to what you called yourself or how you identified in relationship to being ostracized from the overall black community. What I often say all the time is that black people would forgive you for anything, anything, rape, murder, something. There is always somebody in the community that's going to forgive you for whatever. Whether the reason being because we're supposed to forgive everybody, or because we are so flawed as a people, and we recognize that, and we recognize that we make mistakes or we do whatever. The only exception to that, the only exception that I've ever found to that rule is that if you say that you don't, even if you say you don't believe in God, they will still forgive you if you, because they're thinking, they will think that maybe you are spiritual, right? Or there's a way to bring you back. However, there's one thing that you can say that they will completely cut the strings, and that if you say that you are an atheist, the A word, there is no coming back to the community, at least the older community. It is, again, it is different from young millennials to, to those born younger, but from middle millennial, older generation X, certainly baby boomers, you cannot say that you are an atheist. They will look at you, they will shun you, they will you no longer exist to them. Matter of fact, you are demonic, you are evil, you are the antichrist if you say that you are an atheist. So I had never, it wasn't until um, years into my journey that I actually met African Americans who said, yes, I am an atheist. And so for me, it was important that remain inclusive. Um, and so I define myself as a humanist, as a secular humanist, as a non-believer, as a free thinker, because the excuse I had was that I was being inclusive. This is how I felt about things. And as you guys know, and I've said this before, um, I've given my rationale being that no, I don't believe in any God or deity that we've created, or that we know of, but I leave open the possibilities that I could be absolutely wrong, but I also leave open the possibilities that there is something else out there beyond us, right? Now, what I, learned recently and come to know recently through reading and talking and research is that even if there is something beyond us, like extraterrestrial, that is not necessarily considered a supernatural being, right? So I could believe in extraterrestrials, or there is something else in space, which I'm inclined to do. My wife certainly believes that, but I am more inclined to believe that there is something else out there in space, maybe like extraterrestrial or whatever. Um, uh, and so it's taken me all these years to come to grips and say, listen, it is what it is. I've had people to say, especially Black Christians, who say, if you don't believe in Jesus as your savior, if you don't believe in God, the Trinity, then you are an atheist. And I've pushed back and I've argued with them and said, well, that's how you define it. But because I leave open the possibility that there is something else, blah, 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 I don't necessarily define myself as an atheist. The reason for that, another reason for that, and the true reason for that is because I was afraid to call myself an atheist. Reason being is because I knew um, how this word affected people in our community, how people looked at you, how especially us, and how people, put you in a box and were afraid of you, and all these kind of bad images that they had because simply because you define yourself as an atheist. And so what I've decided to do through all of this research and study, and instead of going back the other way, I've decided recently that I no longer have an issue with that. And so, for all practical purposes, I am an atheist. I do not believe in any gods, especially the ones that we know of. Again, I do believe, I leave on the possibility that there is some, I do believe there could be something else out there. But as of today, right now, at this stage in my journey, I am an atheist. And this is literally the first time that I have publicly said this. You go back and listen to all of my interviews. Now, what I have not, if someone has called me an atheist, I have not corrected them. But from what I can remember, what I recall, I don't think that I've ever publicly called myself an atheist. And so today, whatever date this is, November the 5th or whatever, I am publicly announcing that I am an atheist. I do know how that's going to affect some people who know me, who are close to me, because I still believe that even though they've seen me do this for the last 10 years, I think for many of them, they've held hope that I would come back. I even have a friend from college who continues to send me messages on social media saying that you're running from God, you'll be back. God wants you to be his spokesperson, so forth and so on. And we go on and on and on and on about this. And what she hasn't realized, and what many of them haven't realized, is that at the longer I'm in this, the more and more I am convinced that I am right. So it's not like, okay, I'm in this, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should go back to being Christian. No, it is every day I'm further away from that. And so Taisha says, say it with your chest. Yes, I am an atheist. I'm saying it with my full chest. Thank you, Taisha. So yeah, and so this was important to me because one of the things that my wife and I talk about all the time is that you should live authentically who you are, regardless. And so this was important to me to get this out. It was more important for me to say this publicly than it actually is for me to sort of live it, because I sort of been living it. But it was very important for me to say this, and so uh, also for those of you who are um, had been like me, afraid of the A word, afraid of the atheist word. There are many of us out there, and they might not be as old as me, but there are many younger African Americans who are atheists, who are said they're atheists, who are proud to say that they're atheists, and they don't have a problem or an issue with it. And so for those people, I am very proud of those young people. I know some of them. I've talked to some of them. I met some at a conference, even to the point where I remember I asked a group of them, I said, why are more of you not involved in these atheist or agnostic organizations? Because this was the Secular Student Alliance organization. These were college students. And they made a good point. They said, well, this is just who we are. It's not an issue. All of my friends, excuse me, or many of my friends are atheists. It is not a big deal. And she said, so we don't see a need to join an organization to say what we already are, because it's just part of who we are. It's not a big deal. And that made a whole lot of sense. Someone in my age bracket, my generation, it is a big deal. It is a big deal that I'm not a believer. It is a big deal that I'm an atheist. And so it's a huge deal. And so I need to find other people that look like me, that voice it like I voice, and and are atheists just like I am, because I didn't grow up like that. Still, and and I think one of the things that Coda gave me the courage to do this is because now I live out west. I'm here outside of Vegas, and all of the friends that my wife and I have now have accumulated now. First of all, they are wonderful people. They have so many different life experiences, lived experiences, as I should be saying. And very few of them are like really religious. Many of them are atheists. Um, I would say that there are not a lot of African Americans. The African Americans that I do know, that I do hang out with, like some of the guys I hang out with and watch football with, or some of my fraternity brothers, they are still believers. Uh, they know that I'm a non-believer. I have not said to them per se that I'm an atheist, but they know I don't believe in God or different. Some of them anyway. But all the other people that we've met, the non-African Americans, all of them are either religion is irrelevant, or they are not believers, or they are flat out atheists. And it becomes a non-starter. I mean, it becomes a non-conversation. It's just irrelevant. And I love it like that. And it's great. So that's been one of the things. So we found a tribe out here of people where, I don't get asked what church I go to. We plan stuff on Sundays. We do stuff on Sundays like it's a regular day, uh, and so it's awesome. So yeah, so that was again. Hopefully, it wasn't you guys wasn't waiting for some earth shattering announcement, but this was important to me, And I'm appreciative, and I thank you guys for allowing me to share this and for me to say this on this platform. And so I'm open to any comments or any questions that anyone may have. Please put it in the chat if you have any questions as to what moved you from, I'm a non-believer to atheist or whatever, or even if you're critical of it, then that's fine as well. Um, so yeah, and Taisha said, thanks for sharing, and I'm inspired. Thank you, Taisha, and I hope that other people are inspired. Other people who sit on the fence like me. Listen, there are people out there who are more courageous than I was up until recently, that came out and said it. But I think those of us who were raised in the church, who was raised in a certain generation, whether it be older millennials or Generation X or baby boomers, it is a strong, strong, strong hold on you. It is the indoctrination is powerful, and so it is an ongoing process as you get to. And this is not the final step, but this is a major step, and everything after this is really figuring it out more as to how I can help other people to get to this point. It is no longer about proving a point to people or arguing with people or debating with people. One of the things I said also is that I won't be doing as much debating or arguing with people, especially on Facebook, because Facebook, a bunch of old people who are never going to change their opinion about anything. It was fun, it was good. Now I'm turning toward more of let's do some stuff that is substantive, substantial, that's really going to help some people. So you will see less of me arguing and debating on Facebook, at least. TikTok is probably where you're going to see me more on, because it's a different market. It's a different type of people on TikTok. There are absolutely more people who are open about their non-belief. African Americans who are more open about their atheism, being an atheist, being agnostic, being non-believers, who are unapologetic about it, who are in your face about it, who are brutal, who are straightforward, who are unforgiving, and I love seeing them. And so I'm going to become more a part of that community on TikTok. You'll still see some stuff on Instagram, and certainly we will be continue to do this podcast forever and ever and ever, and continue to grow it. So yeah. Tasia said, yes, I love social media because I'm tired of arguing with folks online for free. That's absolutely. And so one of the things I said, I wrote right here, Taisha, before I came on, was that if I'm going to argue or debate with you, then you're going to pay me. Someone is going to pay me. And so that's the deal. I'm no longer going to debate or argue on, especially on Facebook. Certainly not for free. If someone wants to have a debate with me, then we can do it. But it's gonna be paid. I'm gonna get paid. I put a lot of time, effort, education into all of this, and so I'm gonna get paid. And one of the other things, and I'll say this, and then we'll be done. There are people that's in this space that don't look like us. Taisha, me, Neo X, and the rest of us that don't look like us, that are seriously getting paid for their debates and their arguments on this topic in this space. And so we have to be one of those. We have a different lived experience. Um, I think ours is more broader. Ours is more deeper. It means more to us. And so just like they get paid really, really well. I'm on a couple of board of directors, and and I know some people who are on social media, have these platforms, YouTube, that I know personally, that are very, very popular YouTubers or on social media, talking about the same things that I'm talking about, and they make a really, really great living at it. Um, I hope at some point, those of us, myself, Taisha, Neo X, and the rest of us that are on these platforms, that we can make the same type of income. It's not just about income, but we all have to make a living, and so we put a lot of time and effort into this. And so if they can get paid for debating and talking and dialoguing about it, then so can we. And so that's what we are. Come to last comments. Show not cite in my previous comment. Let's see. Yes, I left the meeting. Oh, okay. Bunch of closed-minded old heads on Facebook. Absolutely. You said closed-minded old heads, period. And so, and let me be honest, my wife has been telling me this for freaking 2, 3 years. She said, please stop on Facebook. That's not your audience. They're never going to change. Blah, 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 blah. She's been telling me, telling me, telling me, telling me. Um, and so, yeah, so she's absolutely been right. Taisha said, we deserve to get flued out as well. Absolutely. We deserve to get flued out and taken care of, hotel, food, and everything, and sit on the stage and have these debates and these dialogues with individuals. I know some of these people, as we are, they're no brighter, have no different information than what we have. It's just that people on that side are willing to pay for them. And so we need to start doing some of the same thing. And it shouldn't be it shouldn't take us to have a PhD in order to get paid for this. That's another thing that's sort of frustrating. Many of the people that I see in this space that look like us, African Americans, they're in this space. They are PhDs. They are highly educated individuals. When I flip over to the other side and I see people who are doing the same thing, who are actually getting paid more or making more money doing this, they don't have the same level of education. There are a couple of people, don't get me wrong, there are a couple of people, but certainly not the level of the same education that some of these people have. And it's funny, I think that to sum it all up, almost every Black person that I see in this space that's making a significant living from doing this, all of them are highly educated, a master's degree or higher, right? When I flip to the other side, there are some PhDs, some master levels, but then there's some people who barely finished community college that's making money, that's doing this, that don't look like us, but making a great living at it. And so there's space for us in this thing, and we need to continue to try to do it. So I'll encourage us to support not only me, but support the Taishas and the Neo X's and the rest of us out there. All of us support. We are a larger community. We need to just support each other from the standpoint of helping us to, financially, but also from the emotional support that we all need, the social support that we all need, because this is continuing. This we're not going back. It's never going to be a time where 90% of this country believed in God or Jesus or whatever. We're at 63% now. We dropped from 90%, some decades ago. Now we're at 63% was the last number that I heard. I'm willing to bet in 10 years, we in less than 10 years, probably 5 years, we're going to be under 50%, and so forth and so on. At some point, I'll probably be dead and gone. But at some point, I really believe in my heart that we're going to be a secular nation, a truly secular nation, and just not through the Constitution or through the words, but from the standpoint where people are going to look at people who are overly religious, overly devout, and open about it and say they are the weirdos. Something is wrong with them standing on the corner passing out religious information or whatever. And so I wish, I hope that I'm still alive to see that day, but I know it's coming. And so the last commentation said, I'll create content soon. I'm just torn between starting on a new channel or continuing with my current one. Well, I'll let you figure that out, Taisha. Let me know. I'm here. You know where I am. We can do this together. And so, yeah, I appreciate it. But thank all of you for allowing me to make this announcement, for me to rehash my journey and tell you where we are now currently. But more important, for allowing me to express who I truly am at this stage in the journey. As Taisha said, say it with my chest, I am an atheist. I am a proud Black atheist, proud Black old atheist, older. I'm not old, I'm older atheist. And so I'm proud of it. And so I appreciate all of you. I want all of you to have a great night. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care. Tell your friends about this channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Have your friends subscribe. Have your enemies subscribe to this. And so we'll continue to grow this, but I will be here. And so thank you all so much.